all to this MyFest session. I'm very excited about that. Everyone is welcome, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability. Pets and kids and everything else can show up in this space, and they are happily and welcomed. Do keep in mind that you need to make space for others in this, and we're critiquing ideas, not people. We also want to assume positive intentions. So if somebody, says something, assume that they had a good heart behind it. Participate to the extent that makes you comfortable, and do please be accessible. If you are sharing something that's an image, describe that image. We'll put a link to the community agreements in minute if you want to share a few. Closed captionings are available. You can turn them on yourself if you need help for that. You can message Noreen or I. And again, if you don't want to show up on the recording, you can turn off your camera and change your name. Mic on or off and camera on or off are welcome. And if you don't want to participate in the breakout room, we do have a quiet room that is available to people. And send a message if you need any other kind of support. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn things over.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This is such a great way to be starting our days out here in Southern California. Today feels a little bit odd for me, but odd in the best way possible, in that I feel like a couple of my worlds are intersecting. So, my name is Bonni Stachowiak, and I'm joined by two of my dearest friends who I also happen to get to work with, Naomi Kasa and Shannon Johnson. And the game that we're going to be playing together would not have been possible with both of these individuals. And so it's just fun to be inviting them into MyFest and Equity Unbound. I've talked so much about so many of you. Maha, I feel like not Naomi and Shannon specifically might feel like they're already know you and friends with you just because how much I talk about you. And I know that Maha, I've also shared their names with you too over the years that we've known each other. And so it's just really fun. It feels very special to me to be connecting in this way. And I'm just honored that each of you would take time out of your day to invest in some play, invest in some time to have some dialogue. And yesterday, I was planning on joining the writing session. I really like those kinds of sessions where you set aside some time. There's just a little bit of pressure, but the best kind of pressure to kind of challenge yourself to stay focused. And I was so excited about being there yesterday in community. And I realized I had accidentally left the keys to my office at home. So I had to call our campus safety and have them come over and let me in the office. And then by the time it was like quarter after, I was like, oh, I missed the kickoff. It wasn't going to be worth it and everything. So in the small chance that any of you have had a harried day so far, and getting yourself here, and maybe you need a moment just of peace and of quiet. There are so many difficult things happening in the world right now. Our hearts are so heavy for so many different reasons. Maybe we just need a moment to breathe, or we just need a moment to stretch. I'm going to invite you to, if you want to shut your cameras off, great. If you don't. But maybe if you're able to kind of get your feet on the ground, and if you are so inclined, not if you're driving, but if you're so inclined, perhaps close your eyes. And I'm just going to give us a moment to kind of take a deep breath in and hold it for a second or two and release. And we'll do that one more time. Take a deep breath in and release. If you find meaning and significance in whatever your faith tradition might be, or whatever your beliefs about the world, just to kind of be putting the world, holding space for so many of the difficult things happening in this world. Perhaps we just breathe a couple more times. And if you're inclined to be have a meditative position toward just those in the world who are hurting, those in the world who are suffering, let's take a deep breath in with me and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And for good measure, we're going to do 5 good shoulder rolls, not rubs. We're not actually doing any shoulder rubs. We're doing rolls, shoulder rolls. I had frozen shoulder. I don't know if any of you have ever even heard of that before. I never had until I got it. My shoulder was literally frozen for an entire year. So ever since then, I can't do shoulder rolls without like tons of creaking. I don't know if that's like an age thing or a post frozen shoulder thing, but this always feels very good. But also, like, am I going to creak like this for the rest of my life? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. All right. I think maybe we might, at least for myself, might be ready to be. I find I can be more present for what's around me when I just take a moment to slow myself down. I'm always living in the future, and I tend to be a person who rushes. So, thank you for joining me in that opportunity to slow down. I mentioned that my colleague Shannon is joining Naomi and I here today. You're going to notice that she'll have in the chat some alt text. I'm using a tool called beautiful.ai. It doesn't have the greatest functionality for that sort of thing. And then she's also going to be including some links to some of the key resources that we'll be describing as we go, including a resources page that you're welcome to bookmark for future use. The resources page, I showed it to my husband the other day, and he was like, that's a lot of links. And so if it feels like a lot of links to you, that's why you got to embrace bookmarks, because, then you can always come back and it's categorized according to things that may be of most interest. I'll spotlight a little bit more about the resources page in just a few minutes, but I wanted to invite each of you to reflect on this question or this prompt. In the chat, if you are so willing, would love to have you share maybe a sentence or so of either a recent time when you got lost or a recent time where you felt confused. And if you would use this as a means of introducing yourself, hello, my name is Bonni. And the last time I got lost was actually my keys getting lost, as I mentioned, the keys being at home and me needing the keys at my office. And so I'm just going to give you a minute or two to type something in the chat if you're so inclined on the last time you either got lost or a recent time you got lost, or something maybe that confused you recently. Maybe you got lost metaphorically speaking. And we can kind of do this as our means of introducing ourselves this day and getting to know each other a bit. Oh no, Jenny, that's always the worst. Like if you're just attending, that's one thing, but when you're on the panel, yes, yes. I'm glad that you're here with us, and presumably it sounds like you made it there, though. Yes, reading maps. That can be so tough. Welcome, Kim. So glad that you're here. Oh my gosh, a wooden giraffe. That sounds awesome. Oh, the best, Meg. I love Meg's going with the metaphor of getting lost. I get lost that way all the time, where you just get swept up in something. Yes, the idea of the psychological principle of flow, where you just get so swept up in what you're doing. Can certainly relate to that. Oh, interesting. Jenny's got a challenge for herself. Oh, and a very literal, significant loss. I'm so sorry. Yeah. A loss of the deepest proportions. Ah, ADHD symptoms. Many colleagues that could relate to that for sure. Thank you so much for sharing those stories with us. Please feel free to keep, if you've got something that you're sharing in there. I'm going to go on to a couple slides, but I will be keeping my eyes on the chat, and so will my colleagues as we continue to go. this feeling of overwhelm, whether it's the kind of overwhelm that one of you just shared about losing a dear friend, or the kind of overwhelm that comes where you're expected to be on a panel and wonder if you're actually going to get to make it there after all, that feeling of overwhelm. So many of us, in fact, this might be one of those rare cases where I could risk saying perhaps all of us have experienced some kind of feeling of overwhelm since the rapid emergence of chat based artificial intelligence. And what we're looking at here is AI robot playing chess against a person, and thinking about the way that artificial intelligence has impacted a game like chess, let alone something as complex as higher education. That's definitely uh, fertile soil for causing all sorts of emotions. And in doing some of the conversations that we've had at our university, and I also am so honored to be invited to participate in conversations with many other universities as well around artificial intelligence. One thing has just been consistent throughout all of that is just all the different emotions that pop up. Definitely there's elation for some. Definitely there's sorrow, a loss of some part of our identity. And out of that, as a person who does a lot of facilitation of difficult conversations, it just started to become more clear to me of how the act of play could allow us to have the conversations a little bit more effectively with one another. If momentarily we could stop taking ourselves so seriously to open up a childlike spirit of curiosity and imagination. And I say imagination both in what I would love to be true, like, look at all these amazing things that are possible, but also an imagination that says, look at all these things that are now possible, and to be able to do that with a playful spirit and an openness to be able to hear differing perspectives. And I, for one, have changed my mind. I'll change my mind in the middle of a conversation, and I'm not someone who tends to change my mind really dramatically. That's not really what I'm known for. If anything, I think some people in my life may call me stubborn on, about certain things, but this is certainly something that I found myself wanting to be open to realize how little I know. It's like the more that you learn, the less you realize that you know. And that the only way for us to navigate this is to do it together in community. So we're going to be playing a game today, a card based game. It is a game that my colleagues Naomi and Shannon have played with us both on our campus with literal cards. We got them printed up. They're very cute and lovely. We love the decks of cards that we have. I've also done the card decks at, I think, 8 different universities now. I could be off by 1 or 2 counts there. And then I've also played the game virtually. And then I think the hardest of all was doing it both at the same time. It was very hard, and it was well worth the effort. And so Naomi and Shannon, who are joining me, I was mentioning, were kind of one of the reasons we were able to do that as exquisitely well as we were able to pull it off. It's a very hard thing to do that with a group of about 150 people on our campus, give or take, and then another 40, I think, or so on Zoom. It was a pretty big thing. We're really happy with how we collaborated and challenged each other to make that excellent. So this is a little bit of where we're headed. We have a rough agenda. We've given ourselves permission to not necessarily keep to this precisely, but just to give you some kind of a gauge. So I know some of you may need to leave early. I know some of you may be wondering, like, they haven't started playing the game yet, and it's almost 20 minutes after. What's happening here? So, this is a rough agenda for us. We're going to do a little bit of framing here in the beginning, which I've already started. We're going to then play the game. It has 4 rounds to it. The 4th round is the longest round because it is discussion based. And I'll spoiler alert, the 4th round is where you identify a small action, and that action is going somewhere, and that somewhere should be aligned with your values and also aligned with the things that you're really curious about, that you really want to expand your individual and collective imagination around the impacts of artificial intelligence in your very unique context. Facilitating something like this is really challenging. It's intimidating because some of you know so much more than I do. It's not a competition, but I come into this knowing that that is very much the case. So it's intimidating. Some of you, I suspect, probably feel intimidated yourself. Like I don't know enough. I don't even want to play a game with strangers, or this is super uncomfortable for me. As was said by our facilitator in the beginning, everyone is welcome here. And especially if you feel like you don't know enough to be here, please know that we as a community need beginner's mind perhaps far better than I think we could ever imagine how desperately we need it right now. I was mentioning about the resources page, and I'm going to give you, in case you joined us a minute or two late, I'm going to give you a chance in the meeting chat to feel free and click that bookmark, and then you can, sorry, click that link, and then you can bookmark this for future use. And what this is a link to our slide deck, and then a little bit more about my colleague Naomi and myself here at the top. And then you can see I have had a podcast now for 11 years. Every single week I have aired an episode of Teaching in Higher Ed since June of 2014. It has been the wildest of learning adventures. And I have a bookmark right here at the top if you're interested in just those episodes that are in relation to artificial intelligence. You can just click that link and get to all of them. They are sorted in reverse chronological order. And I think I counted them. I think there's, I lost track. I think there's something like 30 of the episodes that have been aired, and more to come, including tomorrow. I'll be airing an interview with the authors of the AI Con, Emily Bender and Alex Hanna. If you're at all interested in that book or have read it and want to hear more from the listener. So that's a little bit about the resources that are there. And Naomi and I are just going to take a brief moment to introduce ourselves and maybe share a little bit about why we got interested in this game or what's going on. And so I'll pass it, Naomi, over to you to introduce yourself.
Oh, shoot, you're making me introduce myself first, so I don't know what I'm supposed to play off of. I'm along for the ride. I'm just going somewhere with Bonnie. Bonnie is a fun person to go somewhere with. We've worked together for a long time in different capacities. I tell Bonnie I'm sometimes I'm the cranky no bird. That's my job in our collaboration, because Bonnie's a futurist and she's like she lives in the future, which is spectacular. And I'm very pragmatic, and I'm like, no, but how does this work? So we have a fun relationship that I think can be very fruitful. Most of my interest in this game was just working with Bonnie to figure out how to make it as accessible as possible, particularly for the online experience. I'm someone who is actually relatively new to the disability community. I've had a long time in visible disability, but then I had a rough encounter with the influenza B, and my immunodeficiency kicked in, and I nearly died. And now I have a lot more disabilities, so my world become very technologically mediated, and that makes you hyper aware of all of the ways in which we create these barriers and inequities. And all the ways in which you were previously complicit in that system. So one of the things that I'm trying to do in my current practice is just be as much of an advocate as I can for others. And we work at a fairly small institution that all of this is very new to them. So trying to kind of move that needle, in the spheres in which I move is important to me. So that's really how I got involved with the game with Bonnie was really trying to have that experience where everybody who could experience this game online was experiencing it as richly and as fully as they were in person. And it wasn't, that kind of throwaway secondary experience that happens to a lot of us. If you're somebody who experiences a lot of your relationships or world online, there's always that like, oh, it's not as good, and oh, it's never, like you're kind of a second class citizen. I mean, I don't know anybody else who's had the experience of, oh yeah, you can join the meeting and you're the head on the laptop in the middle of the conference table. Yeah, I think there's a few nods. So you feel grateful if you can kind of hear the audio. That's oftentimes your experience of the world. So that's really how I got involved with that. Bonnie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you for your generosity in sharing that. I think this might be a clumsy term, but invisible disabilities are ones that we certainly have started talking about more in recent years in higher education, but I still think is far insufficient. And I just know for you being my friend, the vulnerability that it just required for you to share that. So you just gave a gift to this group of people who have come together to experience and to play is to be vulnerable. And it doesn't always seem like it because people are smiling and laughing and having fun, but there does need to be a foundation of trust. And just thank you for modeling that for us, Naomi. And I was cracking up when you were talking about me being a futurist and sort of echoing that back because apparently I don't even know what year it is. So I'm literally living in the future because apparently, did I really do that, Shannon? Did I build this entire thing off of that this is the year 2026? Because that's awesome that I did that. So yeah, what I can do, not now because I need to focus on all of you, but I can go back and make both a 2025 version and a 26 version. So no matter how you try to get to us, you can reach us. But that is a very me sort of thing to have done. People perceive me as being so much more organized than I actually am. And then if you get up close, you're like, oh my gosh, she is just one hot mess. And that's why she needs to have so many checklists, because if she didn't have those, there would be no help for her at all. So yes, it is so perfect that I did that. Yes, so much me, so much me. So in terms of myself, I mentioned having had this podcast since June of 2014. It's so weird to go back and look at those early episodes and just how little I knew at the time. But even some of them hold up, by the way. There's one about the 8-second rule, which is when you're facilitating, you ask a question and you force yourself to be silent and count to yourself in your head 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, so that you'll get more participation. That episode holds up. There's some others. There's one about rubrics. I don't think it holds up well at all, but they're all there. It's been 11 years, as I mentioned, almost to the day, just a little bit over 11 years. And I quite literally have done it every single week. I'm a little bit addicted to streaks. So the other day I was preparing for an upcoming episode with Emily Donahoe Pitts. I may have her last names reversed, but I stood up and I started doing this and I didn't explain myself. And she's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my watch just told me I'm supposed to stand up because I don't like to sit for more than an hour. And so it's just really funny. I'm a streak person on the watch, like make sure that you like get your sufficient exercise every day. I'm now a streak person with stretching. Today was day 82 days straight of stretching, which I'm really happy about. So yeah. And if you've listened to the podcast before, but you're not aware, there is a taxonomy here so that if you wanted to go back and revisit episodes, someone didn't realize that this was here the other day. So if you go to teachinginhighered.com and click on podcasts, this taxonomy has a gaping hole in it, in that it doesn't have episodes about AI yet. I just don't want the digital pedagogy to get too tall. I have to kind of rethink my entire taxonomy. So I haven't had the time to do that yet. But if you want to, again, get to all AI episodes, you just go to teachinginhighered.com/AI, and that's the page that has a bunch of resources, including the article we'll be talking a bunch about today, and then also the episodes that I mentioned. So, all right, we're gonna do a little bit more framing, and then we'll shortly get to playing the game. So let's talk a little bit about how maps can help us find our way. One such map comes from Ireland. It was produced and created a far number of years ago. And talk about things holding up. This is the best map I've ever seen to frame a conversation around digital fluencies in general. So I hear way too often in my work, I'm not good at technology. And I always want to be like, you realize technology is a really big thing. Perhaps don't say you're not good at all of it, but is there an area that you have growing curiosity about, or an area that you would like to become more versed in? And I just think these subway stops and these threads that run throughout, you can see how they intersect in some cases, is a very useful way for talking about technology. And I've been thinking ever since November of 2022 with the launch of AI's ChatGPT, that you could almost layer AI on top of all of this. And so I still feel like it's a wonderful tool with the overwhelm that we can feel about artificial intelligence to think about, well, what is it we want to challenge ourselves to learn more about or get curious or begin having some really good, difficult discussions about. So I was talking with Leon Furs, who's out of Australia, wrapping up his PhD, his doctoral research. He talks about what a absolute stupendous coincidence it was to begin studying artificial intelligence for his doctorate. And then, November 2022 hits, and just how much that changed the conversation for him academically and professionally. But one of the things he was warning against is that, yeah, we want to think about competencies, but we also want to think about, if we make everything so precise, learning about things is muddier than sometimes the kind of preciseness that we want to put to it. But so many times people have made attempts to come up with some models. So you might see a real simple model like this one that would look at, this is from a business context. So it would be, everybody's a citizen. So what kinds of ethics might we need to think about, or critical thinking, or in terms of workers at our university, my office is next door to our chief financial officers. And so pretty much any day he and I cross paths, he'll be sharing something about artificial intelligence, how that's impacting the areas that he leads at our university. And then, of course, there's also someone whose work is deeply rooted in artificial intelligence. So this might be for someone who's doing data science or system development, programmers, etc.
Bonnie, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Oh, yeah, please.
Oh, sorry. Could you describe the images aloud rather than, I think people are saying rather than expect someone to read it, the alt text in the chat. So I'm going to still put it in the chat, but if you could also read it aloud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for, I did tell Shannon, please interrupt me. And she did. I'm so proud of you, Shannon.
I hate to do that,
Be
but I was like,
prouder of
I
you.
think this is important. Okay.
So this, the image about the AI competencies, I love describing this one because this one is, it's meant to look like stormtroopers from Star Wars, but it's, I'm sure for copyright reasons, I don't think those are actually stormtroopers. I don't know if we have any Star Wars fans here. Do you think those are actually stormtroopers, or are these meant to look like stormtroopers, but actually not stormtroopers for copyright versions? This is very important that we get this right, by the way. Okay, AK says, looks like sec unit from Murderbot. Now, I've only heard about Murderbot, but I literally don't even know what that means. I just heard someone on a podcast talking about it, but I was like, oh, I apparently have to look this up. So
oh yeah,
I have some research to do.
We got to talk, yeah.
Okay. Apparently, this is another session. MYFest Part 2 is going to be Naomi and AK talking about Murderbot. I see this in our future. So this one, I think I did describe the idea here. This is AI citizens, AI workers, and AI professionals. So now we're going to be moving into putting a critical lens, because these more business-oriented competency frameworks are lacking something substantial. And so we're now going to put a critical lens, and we're looking at a literal photographer's lens here, but we're speaking metaphorically. We want to start considering critical AI literacy. And this is a wonderful comic image that comes from Brian Mathers, who is the creator of the visual thinkery. And this is from a cartoon from my childhood. This is Scooby-Doo. I don't know if any of you are around my age. I'm 54, and I watched Scooby-Doo like all the time as a kid. And so on the left is the evil villain looking character, which has a t-shirt that says generative AI. And the good guy, and I practiced his name yesterday, but it's failing me now. His last name is Jones, but I forgot. Naomi, what's his first name?
Fred.
Fred Jones, it's very important trivia here. You got to get it right, right? And Fred Jones has just removed the mask of the evil generative AI character who is saying, "I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you pesky ethics." So we don't want to have AI models that aren't deeply rooted in the ethical implications and us wrestling through this. So Mahabali wrote a wonderful piece. She's actually written a number of pieces looking at critical AI literacy. And in this particular one, she outlines 5 dimensions. So we want to understand how it works, which you'll see that does draw back to the earlier business example I gave. Yes, crafting effective prompts or creating that fertile soil to attempt to get better results from what these tools were designed to do. Assess appropriate use. So much is coming up around writing. To what degree is friction helpful to us as creative beings in dealing with a blank page and the friction that's with a blank page and I don't know where to start, or to what degree might it be helpful? Lots of healthy debate around that, and also lots of unhealthy debate, I might add. And then we want to examine the ethical issues and particularly recognize biases that are baked into these tools. So there is a link in the chat that goes directly to 2 of the articles, but she's certainly written on more about this. I mean, a lot of her blog posts would center and weave around many of the themes that you'll see here. I mentioned that I interviewed Leon Furs for an episode. I cannot keep track of when things are coming out. I think it came out maybe a couple of weeks ago, but in our off-air conversation, he mentioned that he's actually in the process of updating these ethics posts that he has written. They are fantastic. So he has gone and divided them up into topics like privacy, security. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a typewriter here, which is sort of looks like a typewriter that is has a piece of paper in it, but instead of being a blank white piece of paper, is almost like a painting is kind of emerging from the typewriter. So looking at copyright issues, some of the ethical issues around scraping the web, identity, privacy. I mean, it's just a rich set of posts, but he says it's, as you could imagine, such a magnificent difficult project to go and update those, but it'll be something for us to look forward to. So this next set of images are book covers, and these book covers are just one of many, just a small collection of many books that are out there, not always specifically about artificial intelligence, but sometimes they're artificial intelligence adjacent. That's really important history for us to be aware of, or knowledge for us to have. And in the chat, Shannon has pasted a link to the Padlet so that you could add to this collection of books. And we've got Viral Justice by Ruha Benjamin, Atlas of AI by Kate Crawford, Unmasking AI. And here's where I'm going to get in trouble because I can't pronounce Joy's last name. Would love it if anyone could unmute yourself and share that. Feel free. Joy. Anyone know her how to pronounce her last name?
I think it's Bolamwini, but I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you so much.
She's on Netflix. Someone watch the Netflix and listen to her say her name. And TED Talk.
Oh, wonderful. I didn't know she was on Netflix. I knew about the TED Talk. Yeah. Teaching Machines by Audrey Waters. Literary Theory for Robots by Dennis Yi Tenen. The AI Con by Emily Bender and Alex Hanna. Weapons of Math Destruction by Kathy O'Neill. This to me feels like a really wonderful thing to have in this collection, but it's pretty old school. I was actually able to interview her, and it might have been around episode 50. I mean, this book's been out a long time. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Data Feminism, Invisible Women, and More Than a Glitch. So you are welcome to visit that page and contribute other books to it. Some people have already done that in past sessions as well. I did mention how many complex emotions can get evoked when we start talking about artificial intelligence, and a lot of that because it can really bump up to our sense of identity. And one of the ways in which we can help to navigate that is to think in metaphors. And these 4 authors, 2 of which are joining us today. So talk about both being intimidated and being so honored that you're joining us, of this article, Metaphors for Critical AI Literacies. And so the 4 authors are Anuj Gupta, Yasser Steff, Anna Mills, and Mahat Bali. And what we're looking at is a screenshot of their open source article, Assistant, Parrot, or Colonizing Loudspeaker, ChatGPT Metaphors for Developing Critical AI Literacies. And since we have 2 of the authors, so pleased that they're here so that as we go about our time together, we'll be able to have 50% of the source we could go directly to if we have questions about any of the metaphors. Oh, typo. Maha is telling me there is a typo. Oh, my deepest of apologies. I will fix that. That's the beauty of it. I can fix the year and I can fix the typo. So many things I can fix. And apparently it's just my day to be human. And so in their research, which they did a lot of different searching around where they saw metaphors in social media and scholarship and in their own experience. So different ways of knowing and ways of researching. And one of the obvious ones is that people use human metaphors to describe artificial intelligence. So a human metaphor such as a helper or an assistant. And I'm going to come back to the other kinds of groupings, but for now, I'm just going to stick with human metaphors as one of the categories they used. And a pretty famous movie that looks at human assistant as a metaphor was out in 2013, the movie Her. I didn't actually see it. I've asked people if it's one that holds up. And what people have shared, if I were to just characterize the anecdotal evidence, is I remember really liking it at the time. It's really sad to watch it today because there are people for whom these romantic entanglements with chatbots, where they're even to some extent has been sort of falling in love with the artificial intelligence, and even a death having taken place over those feelings of romantic attachment, that it doesn't hold up because of the sorrow around just the confusion that can happen. So I don't know if you all have different feelings about that or not, but that's just what people have shared as I've shared these slides previously. Semi-human metaphors. So an example here, I did not know what the term stochastic meant before reading their article, but it's a AI that mimics human-like text by predicting words based on patterns. So stochastic is that prediction thing based on patterns, kind of a randomized prediction thing. And it's funny, when I had a chance to speak with Emily Bender and Alex Hanna, I didn't realize this until the interview, which by the way comes out tomorrow. She said people were offended on behalf of parrots. She says that if we just say that parrots just parrot back to us and there's no meaning in what they say, she says she's been told by people that's insulting to parrots and that parrots deserve more regard than that in their language. And so I wanted to go on a huge rabbit trail, as you might imagine, but I wanted to keep myself to behave myself because there was so much for us to talk about. So another clip that comes up a lot when we're using words that we don't understand comes from another movie. This is from The Princess Bride. And these characters, the one who's in the middle is the villain in this story, although he's a comical villain for sure. But he keeps saying the word inconceivable, like, wait a minute, how did this person just climb up this entire mountain? Inconceivable. Oh my gosh, how did they do that? Inconceivable. And these things were very conceivable. They were in fact predicted and very easily could have been foreseen. And so the character on the left is Inigo Montoya, and he says, "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means." And so as we think about the metaphor of the stochastic parrot, there can be so many times when this predictive engine of the artificial intelligence is using words that it clearly doesn't have any capacity to be able to understand what it means. So now we are looking at the non-human metaphor example. So a non-human metaphor example that comes up is a blurry JPEG. So what we're looking at here is these are all the images of the cards in Go Somewhere. And this was the closest thing I could find to an icon representing something that's blurry. So it's just like a copy paste of a stick figure face, making it look blurry. So there is an article from the New Yorker where the author, I think it's Ted Chiang, it's in the resources. Ted Chiang, he compares ChatGPT to a blurry JPEG of the internet. It's like you have the internet, we all have in our pockets, this tool that will let us see, more, human knowledge than was ever possible in prior generations, but it's a blurry version of it. It's not one that is super accurate. And Maha's saying in the chat, it's just funny that the blurry JPEG ended up with the human icon, so not something non-human. Yes. Yes, I was trying to find the icons that all look similar, but yes, that is rather funny. All right, and then what we're looking at here is a chart where they put together these different metaphors. So I've been mentioning to you some of the human metaphors, we're now looking at the x-axis of this chart. So the human metaphors, the semi-human metaphors, and the non-human metaphors. And then on the y-axis, we have the three categories I haven't yet touched on. I'm just going to briefly touch on these because part of this is going to come out in our gameplay. But in the gameplay, you'll see some cards or some metaphors that describe the functional view of AI. How do people use it? So examples of functional AI might be a calculator for words. You may have heard people use that. So a calculator for words would be both how you use it, and it's a non-human metaphor because it's a calculator. Now, by the way, as an aside, many people critique the comparison between calculators and AI. It's just the authors of this are saying that comparison has been made. They're not making a comment about whether or not they agree with that, but that comparison has been made. So then you have the critical view of AI. So this was the lens I was describing from some of Mahabali's pieces, where we look at it and say, it's a Venus flytrap, for example, trying to draw you in and trap you in. Fast food being a non-human metaphor, but a critical view that's not very nourishing to you. You see that come up a lot. And then there's the rhetorical view of AI. So a cute, hapless robot or something that is leveling the playing field. So we have all these different metaphors. I hope you're not trying to memorize these metaphors because part of our game is going to involve guessing them. So the goal is not to memorize these. The goal is just to understand a little bit about this article and why it was written. And the authors describe here, our work helps extend this conversation on creating supportive environments for AI learning by arguing that supportive learning environments around AI should also make space for critical exploration of the nature and ethics of AI. So we're going to start playing the game, and we're going to go on to begin round one here in a moment. And here are some of the goals. I've already mentioned most of them, so I'll just say briefly, we want to explore different perspectives. We want to heighten our curiosity, embrace a sense of play, analyze metaphors, reflect on our values. And the overall goal, by the time we are done together today, is to take some small action, to commit to take some small action. So we're going to be forming teams of 4 to 5 players. And if you are in a place where you could have something to write with, or your phone, or maybe even open Notepad on your computer. And then we'll also have digital cards for you, and 2 decks. There'll be metaphor cards and then a second deck of values and action cards. We'll be providing those to you. So Shannon is going to be creating breakout rooms. There is going to be a quiet room if there is anyone who would wish to not participate in the game and just have a time of quiet. If you could send a message either directly to Shannon or even just in the chat, in the meeting chat, if you'd just like her to put you in that breakout room for the quiet room. And then if there is anyone who just would prefer to stay in the main room, let Shannon know that too. And then other than that, Shannon, how many teams does it look like we'll be having? She says 4. So Shannon's going to be doing a
4
random breakout rooms, 4, unless we get so many people who want the quiet room or the main room. Shannon, you've got one person who's requesting a quiet room. Anyone else who'd like to stay in the main room or do a quiet room?
I'd like to stay in the main room.
Yay,
That's okay.
that sounds great.
We can pause the recording and then we can have a breakout room here, which could be nice for the video.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Yeah, so this is going to be round 1. I'll describe it to you, and then Shannon will be sending people into those breakout rooms. So round 1 is a permission slip. And if you have something to write with, this is something where you can draw, and or you might have a prefer to describe yourself in words. So first thing you'll do is write permission slip at the top of your piece of paper or at the top of your note. And then you're going to add the words, I hereby give myself permission to draw things and not care what anyone thinks. And then this next one is a choice. You can draw a self-portrait, and I'm going to describe the permission slip that we're seeing here on the left side of the screen. You might recognize Brian Mather's name or Visual Thinkery. He was the artist that did that cartoon drawing that we saw earlier. And this is Brian Mather's permission slip. This is actually from his blog. He created this activity. And so this is his self-portrait. And it's just a sketch, hand-drawn sketch of face, shoulders, and then his signature there at the bottom. If you would prefer, you could write a 1-sentence self-description if that's more comfortable for you to do. And so I'm going to give you 1 minute to either draw a self-portrait on a piece of paper, or I suppose on a device too would work if you've got that capacity. And then if you would prefer, you could write a 1-sentence self-description. I will give you 60 seconds.
And now we can pause the recording.
For 3 minutes, you'll be sharing your drawing or your description with your teammates. That's what you'll do for 3 minutes. So just rotate around there. And then in addition to that, you'll pick a scorekeeper and assign each teammate a different number from 1 to 5. So your scorekeeper is not going to have too hard of a job. Just to give you a little preview, they'll be filling out a PDF, a fillable PDF of just how many points did your team get on round 1, how many points did your team get on round 2, etc. And each of you then needs to be like, one of you's player 1, one of you's player 2, one of you's player 3, 4, etc., all the way up to 5.
So the
in
number
that
of the team member is just who ABCD. It's not like better.
Yeah, correct. 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 Yeah. Yep. Just arbitrary numbers. Yep. So for 3 minutes, you'll be sharing your drawings or description, and then just make sure that you pick a scorekeeper, and then know if you're player 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's what you'll be doing in this first round. And Shannon, are you ready? Have I forgotten anything? Okay, she says she's ready. I just didn't want to. I just told a story I didn't necessarily want the world to hear. So there you go. Welcome back, everyone. We are now going to be doing our first round of scorekeeping. Every round is similar. And so what will happen is that there is a link in the meeting chat now for you scorekeepers. Hopefully you had a chance to pick your scorekeeper. If you didn't, maybe you could just volunteer someone to represent your group. And what you'll do is you'll go and download this scorecard. So there's a little arrow here to download. That will download to wherever downloads normally go on your computer. And then its fields are fillable once it's downloaded to your computer. And so your scorekeeper is going to enter 1 point for each person who finished and shared that permission slip. So presumably people in your group probably all shared. So if there were 3 of you, you get 3 points. If there were 4 of you, you get 4 points, etc. If you're nervous because you're incredibly competitive, please don't worry because there are no prizes. So this is one of those games where the points really don't matter. But also we have found, I played this, like I said, 8 to 10 times now. This first round is really not very predictive for the future rounds that are much more about skill than they are the quantity of people that you have. So scorekeepers hopefully are downloading the scorecard and you've entered 1 point for each finished permission slip and you've entered the names of your team members there in your scorecard. And then this next step is optional. It is entirely your choice if you might wish to share your self-description or your self-portrait. This is a link to a Padlet board. And it's kind of nice for those of you who do facilitation, which is probably all of us. I really like this instance of Padlet because then when I go to the next slide, it gets embedded here. And each of you who post in real time will see within my slides. I don't have to go anywhere to see them. We see them start to pop up there. So if you'd like to share your permission slip online, you could do that using that QR code or using that link. And I'll give you a minute to ask if you have any questions. AK says cone of silence A. Is that A? Oh, cone of silence. Oh, if you would like to share it. I think his carrot is pointing up. Is there a link to the scorecard? Yes, there should be a link. It's that pretty long one. I'll put it.
It's the
right
Vanguard
next,
SharePoint. It's the Vanguard SharePoint that Shannon posted.
Yeah, I just posted it again, Meg. It's in the chat. Oh yeah, it's totally fine. We got lots going on. This first round is the hardest just to get ourselves set because you start to see the echoes. It starts to go faster after this. When we were playing the game for the first time with our colleagues, it was so cool because these embedded Padlet boards like this, I didn't realize that you could do this, but once there starts to be assets that get posted here, text or images, you can click on them and it automatically creates a slideshow embedded for you. And I didn't know that that was going to be the case until we're actually playing the game. And since it was a larger group of people, over 100 people in the room there on campus, it was really nice because everybody's got to be fairly large and visible, and we were able to share them and just enjoy that together. So I'm going to give you another minute or two if you wanted to post your image there. And actually someone's done this. I can't tell until I click if. And by the way, you don't have to share your name. Kim has shared her name, but you certainly don't have to. So Kim has drawn a beautiful picture of herself. I see her eyelashes and her eyebrows and beautiful, beautiful long hair. And Kim has given herself permission to draw things and not care what anyone thinks, which is so fun. Thank you for giving yourself permission. The number of times, I want to repeat, this is Brian Mather's activity. He floats around in my head so much where I'm like, I give myself permission to do X, Y, or Z and not care what anyone thinks. It's like a really healthy exercise that doesn't only apply to self-portraits. It's kind of lovely. So. Maha, I keep getting older and having fewer and fewer eyelashes. Some days I put mascara on, but most days these days I've given up. So I don't draw. I don't tend to draw my few and far between eyelashes. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, you don't want to do that. Yeah. It's so funny. All right, so we're going to go on to round 2, but please don't hesitate. You could still post if you wanted to share yours. In fact, you could even do so afterward. That's absolutely great. So we're now going to go on to round 2. As a reminder, a metaphor is a figure of speech that involves describing something by saying it is something else to highlight a particular quality or characteristic. And ever since reading their article about metaphors, it's one of those things. There's the expression, if you buy a yellow car, all you see on the highway are yellow cars. Mm-hmm. And so ever since hearing the power of describing and discussing things in terms of metaphors, I've been seeing it everywhere. So I use a bookmarking service called Raindrop. And so I have a category of AI, which for this session at MYFest, I made this AI feed public. So any of you who use RSS feeds, you can now connect to this. If you want to get every time I say anything about AI, if you'd like that to feed to you, you can grab that. It's under technology tools. So if you know what an RSS feed is and you like to subscribe to them, it's right here under technology tools. If you would rather just view it as a page, you can just click. This is a public link. I'll put it in the chat in case this is hard for some of you to get to. This is a public page that will always have the latest AI articles, videos, etc. But now I have one, just a tag just for metaphors, because I'm seeing them everywhere. It's like that yellow car on the highway. A lot of metaphor used to describe things, both in helpful ways and not so helpful ways. So here is round 2. So let's go through the steps and then we will get you into those breakout rooms. First, I'd like you to think, this first part is all together. I'd like you to think of an AI metaphor that either you have used or that you've heard someone else use, but you're not going to tell anyone. You're not going to tell your teammates. You're just going to keep that to yourself. And you're going to draw a sketch of the metaphor. This is like that game Pictionary, if you've ever played Pictionary before, where you're going to try to get people to guess based on your drawing. Or if you would prefer an alternative, you could write 3 clues about your metaphor. And again, you're not speaking to anyone about this. This is a drawing that you're doing or a description that you are writing. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. Does anybody need an example of this before I set my timer for 2 minutes? Are you able to think of a metaphor or that you've heard someone else use or that you yourself have used? I'll give you a hint. Don't make it too hard to guess because people are going to be guessing your metaphor. So if it's something super esoteric, people aren't going to get it. All right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes for your sketch. You're just doing this independently or for your 3 clues. This, as I mentioned, we've played this many times, as I mentioned. And so what we typically do is just hold our drawing up like this to our webcam, but you might just also describe it. Oh, it's a smiley face and so on. You know, like if you're having trouble like getting people to be able to see your drawing, this is actually a terrible example because the pink on the black is not vibrant enough. But in your group, you're going to be trying to get each other to guess your metaphors, either Pictionary style or by describing it. So I might say to Naomi, okay, it's something that little kids soccer players, they always have an adult who is their
referee.
There we go. You know, she guessed it, you know, and then the next person goes, okay. And as soon as you all guess all of your metaphors, or if you all are able to guess them, then the round is over and you can come back. So Shannon, I'll let you open up the rooms and off we go to the next slide. Before I go to the next slide, I just wanted to mention that we're going to have throughout these rounds an opportunity for you to share. So if you wanted to share your drawing, you can, but that's optional. And just like last time, your scorekeeper is going to give a score for each one of the metaphors guessed. I had a little something happen with my slide, which has never happened, and I've been using beautiful AI forever. So Shannon's given me a screenshot. I'm just going to share a screenshot of what that slide is supposed to look like, and then we'll come back to that momentarily. Let's see. So this is what that slide is supposed to look like. Are you seeing the correct thing, Shannon?
Yes, as well as the rest of your screen, but.
So for scorekeepers, you're going to give a point for each metaphor that was correctly guessed. So if you're in a team of 2 and each of you guessed each other's metaphor, that's 2 points. Enter your total score for your team there. And then once again, everybody has an option if you would like to share your metaphor sketch or your description. There is a link for you to do that. I'll give everybody just a minute or 2 to keep score and to share your drawing if you would like to. And the link to share your drawing, if you would like to, or your description is in the chat, that bit.ly link, as well as a lovely look at what this slide is supposed to look like. Metaphors there. We've got 10 minutes for our next 2 rounds. Can we do it?
Yeah.
I think we can. All right, so round 3. You are going, this is the last time you're going to be accessing it's in the chat, you're going to be accessing a link to a digital folder. And you're going into round 3. And this is where your player number comes in handy, because Naomi has in advance shuffled your cards for you. So there's a deck of about 60-ish metaphor cards, give or take. But she shuffled them out to play 5 different players. So let's say that you were player 4, you would access just the player 4 cards. And so this would be your guess. Then I have to get my teammate to guess AI tool. So I'm going to go, okay, Naomi, it's a box and we keep these precious things that help us fix things in it. You know, I'm trying to get her to say tool. And then if we had lots of autocomplete stories in our last thing, so I'd be like, okay, it's sometimes you're typing on your messages and it changes what you said into something else. Trying to get Naomi to say autocomplete, trying to get her to guess, and you rotate. So once Naomi gets on my team gets it right, then it's her turn to try to get me to guess her. If she's player 3, her deck of cards. So these are shuffled cards. And this is where your player number comes in handy. This is where you want to know what that player number was that you had. So everybody go to the chat, find your player number, and you'll want to find that PDF. And if you would prefer a plain text version for every player number, there is also just plain text. Here's example player 3, plain text, fast food, clueless intern, etc. So what you're going to want to do for this round, which will begin in just a moment, is you're going to want to have your cards for your player number. And then we're going to put you in breakouts. And now you are trying to describe to your teammates those metaphors, get them to guess those things without using the word or phrase themselves, and just keep rotating. And Shannon, let's put 3 minutes on the clock.
Got it. Let's go.
All right, so this is our second, a few minutes remaining. And for this scorecard, it's pretty easy. 1 point for each metaphor that got guessed. So scorekeepers, if you would, for round 3, just type in how many total metaphors got guessed. If you don't know for sure, just guess. I'd like to remind you again, there are no prizes, so therefore the points do not matter, but give your best guess on how many metaphors got guessed, total your team points, and then direct message your scorecard to either Shannon, Naomi, myself, whoever you'd like, or if you do it publicly accidentally, that's fine too. It's not like some super top secret thing we have going on here. So I'll wait for those to start coming in, and we're going to begin our last round. And we have decided our last round is going to be here in public because we just have about just a few minutes left in our time together. So we're going to get you back to the the files that are in the OneDrive. This is round 4. And we're looking at sample actions that you could take, small steps to move forward in your learning, curiosity, critical thinking around artificial intelligence. And if you need some inspiration, there are values cards that are more universal values based on well-cited researcher values. So we're going to keep ourselves out here in the open and are going to invite you to browse these sample action cards if you would like, or maybe you already kind of know what's next for you on your journey of learning more about artificial intelligence. And we'll invite you to share in the chat, or if you would like to share directly onto the Padlet board, whatever is your comfort level for just a next step of what you're going to take. And by the way, a great next step would be future MYFest sessions about artificial intelligence. I've gone to so many of them and they're so nourishing and I learned so much every single time. So that would be an excellent next step, or even to go over to the schedule and be looking for future sessions about artificial intelligence. So this is our last round of Go Somewhere. And then we invite you to share just a next step in the chat of an action you commit to taking. The smaller, the better. And I'm seeing colleagues, Shannon and Naomi, one of the teams, I got a direct message was 0 because they decided to spend the time brainstorming, which is great.
Love it.
So love it. Oh, and Ma has put in the chat, browse MYFest by theme. Thank you so much. So we could go over there and, you know, find that next session that you might want to learn more about artificial intelligence and critical AI literacies. So there's an opportunity for you to do that too. And go ahead and type, like I said, in the chat, type in the, Shannon and Naomi, do we have a winner or are we not even going to try?
Everyone's a winner. It's one of those
Everyone.
things.
Oh,
there
I like
we go.
that.
Everyone's a winner.
Yes.
The suspense was so intense, and now we realize all of you have won. It would be fun even if you any of you wanted to share kind of about your experiences too. So and Jenny has put in the chat opportunities to give feedback on the session. We are here at 1:30. So we're officially done. Don't feel guilty at all. Please be on your way with the rest of your day, evening. So glad to have spent the time with you. I'm not in a rush to hop off immediately, but I want to be very respectful of your time. And once more, I'll just take us to the, oh, great, someone's already posted on there, to the resources page in case you missed it, to learn more and to see these slides. So, and for those of you that were a little bit late, this is me living in the future since it is not 2026, but what are you going to do? Oh, and my link did not. I was going too fast. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to get a better link there in a second. Yep, so that takes you over to the resources page in case you missed that. Thanks everybody for being here. And I'm welcome to stick around if anybody wants to ask questions, share what happened in your groups, just hang out, whatever you'd like to do. But I want to also just give you permission to say farewell. And this is a bit of time to spend together.
I'm curious what demographics you've used this with. Is it always like faculty or have you done it with students?
Haven't done it with students, but I am going to do it with students at our university in the fall here. So October-ish here in the United States. I'll be so curious. I'm going to need to talk to some students in the design phase before I actually play it with them because I don't know what to expect. I'm really curious to see what that response is going to be like. Yeah. But one of the things I've really become rather obsessed with decks, by the way. So, and now that people know this about me, like they'll tell me about other decks. So maybe some of you have heard of the deck of spaces before, about universal design for learning. And then this is the rest deck. the Nap Ministries Rest Deck 50 Practices to Resist Grind Culture by Trisha Hersey. So anytime someone finds out that I love cards, it's like I want to learn more, all that I can about card games and how to create them and how to design them. So I just realized that the complexity involved in what we shared with you today is kind of hard to fathom if you've not done something like that today. And it makes me realize, like, to do it with students, that's going to be pretty challenging in the best ways possible. But I definitely think I need pre-design. I think Kim was nodding her head when I said that I will definitely need to talk to students. Is that what you agree with? Yeah.
I think their metaphors might just be different and their experience, like their mindset. So it would be really interesting to hear a little bit about kind of that generative space with them. I also was typing in the chat, but I'll just say it, that Ibram Kendi has a version of how to be an anti-racist that's a deck. That's really good.
Oh, nice. Nice. Thank you so much.
Can you say that again, Kim?
Ibram Kendi, he's the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist. So he also has a set of how to be an anti-racist cards.
That's so cool. Do you have a link to where one can buy that?
Sure, I'll find that.
Yeah.
One of the things that made it so nice to prepare for today was that there's already such a deeply rooted culture and a set of norms that are a part of MYFest. So I was trying to explain it to Shannon and Naomi, although it's kind of impossible for me to feel like I can describe it, but I was trying to say, oh, they have the norms and the values, and like every session starts that way. We want to sort of start doing that for our faculty meetings of people that are online participants. Because as Naomi was sharing, that's a real friction point for us. But with students, I'm doing it at our library speaker series. And so all they've ever seen is someone standing up and talking the whole time. They will never have seen anyone do anything but lecture 100% of the time. And so I'm like, just to even ask them to take out a piece of paper and draw something, we'll be like, wait, what? Who is this woman? Like, what is she asking us to do? So I'm going to break so many norms. And I only have 50 minutes. So obviously I have to modify the game that way too. So, but it's going to be a fun challenge. I can't wait to do it. I'm super excited, but it will be really challenging.
People tend to end up enjoying it. I just wish we had more time to play today. I don't know where the time went. I think maybe
I don't either.
Part of it was that there was a session just before yours, so you probably started like a few minutes late.
Yeah.
But the
yeah.